Excellent. Moving onward. So I get the fun task of introducing Mr. Wally Mead. So for those of you who have been doing Configuration Manager for any point of time, there is no point in me introducing Wally because you all know who he is. But there are two things that I will tell you that you do need to know related to Configuration Manager if you're working with Wally. The first is the product name is Configuration Manager. It is not SCCM, which is the Society for Critical Care Medicine. So you need to remember that. Don't use the short name on it, not appreciated.
That's only one of them. When I was in Zurich a couple weeks ago, and David O'Brien popped up another one. It was some, I want to say it was some nursing home in Switzerland. It was SCCM as well. So
plenty of options as to what SCCM could actually stand for, but it is Configuration Manager, ConfigMgr, any other terms on that. I've been called on that. And the second thing you need to know is, in terms of Configuration Manager, and I mean this with all seriousness, Wally has probably forgotten more about Configuration Manager than most people on the planet will ever know about the product. So this is the guy, Wally is the man when it comes to Configuration Manager. So I've got a few other housekeeping announcements that I need to make here while they're getting all wired up, as a matter of fact. So the first and foremost is I want to make sure if you have questions, you've got questions on the early presentations, you've got any of those types of things you need to mention, then what I want you to do is please tweet those in. We have a QA session at the end. We hadn't talked about that yet, but the Q&A session will be for all of the presenters, all the speakers and the rest, and a chance to be able to bring in those questions, let you guys win some more good swag and things like that. Second, I wanted to mention, for those in attendance specifically in Houston, I was touring all the different booths that were outside and seeing what good swag was out there, and I noticed one that I thought I would bring to everybody's attention. Civision is actually giving away a Sony smartwatch giveaway. So I would say if you're not already in that one, you definitely want to get over there and take a look at their products and get into that drawing. So add that to probably one of the top two coolest swag ones I've seen. I got one more announcement here of note, which is that I got a note from our location in Florida that they just announced this probably within about an hour ago. They are actually launching a brand new user group in Fort Lauderdale, Miami. So as a result of the SCU group getting together and the first, simulcast that they're doing, they're actually launching a brand new user group in that area. So that's really cool. So shout out to all the crew in Florida, existing user groups, and the new one. So, yeah. All right, and with that, if you have questions, comments, and the rest of it, definitely tweet to Wally, and we'll get those at the end. Thank you all.
Well, thank you. You can't tweet me because I don't tweet. So tweet to those guys, and they can relay things to me. So thank you all. Good morning. I guess good afternoon for some of you remotely. Good evening for some of you. And for those of you I'm going to put to sleep, good night. So it's a pleasure being here. It's my third event here at Systems Center Universe. So thank you to Catapult and all the sponsors for great events. It's worked out great the last couple of years. I remember in Austin we had some problems. Some people from Redmond actually didn't make it down because we had a snowstorm in Redmond that day, and then people were having problems getting here from other places with the weather here in Houston. So it seems to be a problem with the weather in Texas. So maybe you ought to move the event up to Redmond. So we'll see. But anyway. My name is Wally Mead, as Cameron said. I've been with Microsoft for almost 22 years now. Been working in the configuration managers / prior to that SMS space for 20 of those 22 years. So been around for a long time. As Cameron said, I've forgotten a whole lot of stuff, maybe not more than other people knew, but I've forgotten a whole lot of stuff. So don't ask me a question on ConfigMan 2007. I don't remember it at all anymore. So it's all 2012 and later based now. So. This presentation is Managing Modern Mobile Devices with System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager. Trying to go for the longest title on a slide, although I think Travis beat me. His was a little bit longer. He had a few more acronyms in there, but it's, again, pleasure to be here. So we're going to talk about what we can do. Now, I'll give you a warning. I was in Oslo a few weeks ago and did a two-part of this presentation, and I had 2 hours to do that, and that wasn't enough. So we're certainly not going to get through everything in an hour. So I'll do what I can in the hour time frame. For those of you that are in the Texas area or Phoenix, if you want some more detail, I'm going to go much more deeper into the user groups I'm doing for the next 5 days between Texas and here. So today's challenges. Users. Users want to be mobile. I started with Microsoft, again, almost 22 years ago, and we didn't travel much. We sat in our office, or some people had cubicles. We sat there and we did our work, and if we went to a conference, they might have PCs at that conference and a communications network or whatever we would log into to chat back home. But we were pretty well stationary users. Today, everybody wants to be mobile and they want to be able to get their work done from wherever they are. When I started with Microsoft, I was given a specific desktop system. I didn't have a choice. I was given a computer, it had a specific set of applications on it, Windows 3.1 or whatever it was, and that's what I used. And nowadays, we get hardware refreshes every 3 years, so you get to pick your laptop model. Microsoft IT will certify a dozen different models, whatever. So we get some device choice. But now people, especially you younger generations, you're used to using these things. So iPads and Surfaces and phones, and you want to use these devices to get your work done. In the old days, we didn't do that. We had our desktops that we did our work with. And now everybody's got laptops, some of you, but you want to use some of these other devices to work with. Well, to get your job done, get your work done, you have to have access to the appropriate applications to get on your corporate network to access those resources available. So you need to have some way of providing those applications to those users, no matter where they are, on whatever platform they happen to be utilizing to try and get their jobs done. And obviously, the end goal is to get access to your corporate data. You got to get to email, you got to get to those spreadsheets, you got to get to those websites, whatever it is, to get the job done that you need to get done, no matter where you are and whatever device you are. So the world has changed a lot in the environment from, again, the days when I started. So you guys have some challenges. You got to be able to allow your users to be mobile, allow them to have some sort of device choices, because very, very few people just have a single device they work with. They have multiple different devices. They got to have the applications to get their jobs done, access their corporate data, but you guys, as the IT staff, one of your primary concerns is, other than providing this, is making sure it's secure, making sure that your corporate data is not at risk. It's not being compromised because of these people being mobile, using these different devices and so on. So you got to provide that underlying infrastructure and that management to provide those resources as well as maintain security. So at Microsoft, we call this people-centric IT. And what we try and do with our people-centric IT is allow you to enable your users to be productive from wherever they are on whatever device they want to use. We want to unify your environment, which means we don't want you to have multiple different portals to go out there to manage those users in those different type of environments with those different type of devices. We want to have a simple solution for you with a single admin console to do everything. And allow you to protect your data. Make sure that your data is not compromised. Make sure that if I lose my phone at the airport, that any corporate data on here will get wiped out. Or if I choose to no longer use my iPad, give it off to one of my kids because I'm going to switch over to my Surface device and use it instead, we want to get rid of the corporate data off there but leave the rest of the data on there so that the pictures and contacts or games or whatever are there for the kids. So providing those resources for you to be able to handle that environment, make your users productive, but give management that level of security that they are not being compromised. So that's what we're going to talk about in this presentation as much as we can in the 52 minutes we have left. So you guys, I'm assuming you're all configuration manager people, been around for a long time. I know Kent mentioned 96 or 97 when he started working with the product. So a lot of you have been around for a long time. So you guys are all very familiar with the, I guess it's the left side of the screen that you have. So the on-premise configuration manager environment. Great capabilities. Not the easiest product in the world to figure out how to make it do its work. It is complex. I don't think there's anybody in this room that would dispute that. It is not an easy solution. So it's not really designed for those that really small shops that might have a dozen users or systems they have to manage, or they have 100 systems. Somebody asked me one time what was the smallest environment I ever saw using Configuration Manager. And I said I knew somebody that was running 50 computers, and they're managing using Config Manager to manage those 50 computers, which is really small. The vast majority of our customers are a bit larger than that. And I was in, actually it was Oslo back in September, and a guy says, I can beat that. I have 7. I manage 7 computers with a Configuration Manager. And I said, well, one of two things. Either you had a very good sales rep at your company, or you came from another corporation that was larger where you learned Configuration Manager, you knew how to make it do what you wanted it to do, and you could transfer that learning over to the small environment. And that was his. He had come from a larger company. But it's not an easy product. Once you figure it out, it's fantastic. You can do a ton of stuff with it, but it's not for the faint of heart. So a few years ago, we released a simpler solution for those smaller environments that didn't have the expertise, didn't have the resources to manage and implement a configuration manager environment. And that's the right-hand side of your screen. That was Windows Intune. So a cloud-based solution that would give you a lot of the same capabilities for managing your Windows systems through an internet-based cloud service. So getting some inventory, deploying some applications, managing some patches, getting endpoint protection out there, running some reports, and so on. So giving you some, again, very limited capabilities when you compare it to Configuration Manager, but a whole lot easier to implement and utilize. But it was a choice that companies would have to make. Do I want Config Manager? Do I want to have Windows Intune? And you couldn't really have both of them, certainly not to manage the same computer. Well, now you guys are all coming out with all these mobile devices, and you really want to manage those mobile devices. And we in the enterprise client space, which includes Configuration Manager and Windows Intune now, we've made the choice that to manage these mobile devices, realistically, you're going to combine both these two solutions together. So it's not going to be an either-or choice anymore. It's going to be, I'm going to have both of them. I'm going to have an on-premise infrastructure so I can manage my Windows environments, and I'm going to have Windows Intune, the cloud-based service, so I can manage my mobile devices. So you're going to be in this type of a scenario where you are integrating these two components together. So in the top, you have your Configuration Manager, and you see managing your Windows environment. So your Windows XP devices all the way up through Windows Server 2012 R2. You see below that, we also mentioned Mac OS X. So we do manage Macintoshes. We also do manage Linux and Unix servers. Now, we don't have them on the slide because this is people-centric IT, and traditionally, you're not having end users logging on to or utilizing on their desktop a Linux or Unix server environment. So talking more of the data center environment there. But we do manage Linux and Unix as well, all through that one ConfigMan admin console, which you guys already know. Lower right-hand corner is you want to manage these mobile devices, your Windows 8.1 computers, your Windows RT, the Surface devices, your iOS devices, your Androids. So some of us call those the fruits and aliens support with the iOS and the Androids. So you want to manage those. You're going to do that through the cloud service. But you don't want to have these two different portals, the on-premise portal for ConfigMan, those Windows, those Mac, the Linux, Unix, and then the Windows Intune admin portal through the cloud to manage the mobiles. So with the integration, you get to manage all those devices with a single administrator console. Again, unifying that infrastructure for you, making that infrastructure as seamless as possible so the same guy can do everything. It's probably the same person managing your iOS devices, the same guy is managing your Mac, your Linux, as well as your Windows platforms. So that's where we want you to go, and that's where we think the vast majority of you are going to go if you're going to be looking at managing your mobile devices. So platform support, so what we can support, all the stuff in red on the slide is all stuff that's new as of the R2 release of Configuration Manager 2012, as well as the most recent release of Windows Intune, which was as of October, the same time frame we released R2. So Windows 8.1. There's actually 3 different ways you can manage Windows 8.1. The 2 primary methods we want you to do are install the full Config Manager client agent on it is preferable. So you make it just like your existing Windows XP, which hopefully you guys are all getting off of Windows XP here very shortly, if not already. More likely Windows 7 you got right now, up through, again, the Windows Server 2012 R2. So put the full client agent on there, you get all features. The last column, the end user experience, the software center for system-targeted software deployments, application catalog for user-targeted software deployments. Alternately, in the Windows 8.1 operating system, we have an OMA DM agent built into it. So OMA DM is a mobile device management agent that's actually built into the operating system. So you don't have to install Configuration Manager on that device if you don't want to. You can have it being managed through Windows Intune just by turning on a feature in the operating system. And I'll show you that in a demo coming up. If you do that, then your end user self-service portal is called the Windows Intune Company Portal app. So a native application that will get you access to all your applications that have been targeted to you. So a replacement for the application catalog. The third way, actually it's not on the slide, is to install the full Windows Intune client agent on the Windows 8.1 client and treat it like a device that's being managed solely through Windows Intune. That's great. You can do that if you're a Windows Intune only shop. If you're a combined shop or an integrated solution like we're talking about here, you don't want to do that. because if you install the full Windows Intune client agent on a Windows PC, you will not be able to manage it through Configuration Manager. So you have to use the Windows Intune admin console to manage those. So that's why we don't have that option on the slide here. So to manage this through Configuration Manager, it's either the full agent through us, as you would normally install, or the OMA DM agent, just turn that on. The other Windows PCs, Windows XP through Windows 8, all the same. Put the ConfigMgr client agent on there and use normal portals. Windows RT, OMA DM is built into it. It's already built in, you just have to turn it on, and I'll talk about that momentarily. Windows Phone 8, a limited version of OMA DM is built into the Windows Phone 8 operating system. So again, you just go to Settings and Company Apps and turn it on, and I'll talk about that. iOS, you see iOS uses the Apple MDM protocol. So on my iPad, we don't install an agent here. We use the agent that's already built into the operating system. It's based on Apple's MDM protocol. Very, very similar to our OMA DM agent that we have. But what is new, you see on the right-hand side, is the end user experience. We now have a new portal, the Windows Intune Company Portal app for iOS. You go to the iTunes Store, and you download that application. It's a free application from the iTunes Store. You install it on your iOS device, and now you can go ahead and get all your applications that are targeted to you from your native application. So that's a new thing in the R2 release with the latest release of Windows Intune. Android, we did have support for Android as of the Service Pack 1 integration with the older release of Windows Intune, but it was really done through EAS, Exchange Active Sync. So what we've done now in the R2 and the current Windows Intune release is we've actually created a portal, the Windows Intune Company Portal app for Android that you go to Google Play to download. When you download that application, install it, it will install an OMA DM agent that we as a product group wrote for Android. So we've provided an Android agent for you to give you this mobile device management. So it makes it look much more like an iOS experience or a Windows experience using the OMA DM agent. And then the Mac, you install our client agent on it. Linux, Unix, you install our client agent on them. There is really no end user experience because you don't target software to the end users on Macs or Linux, Unix. It's targeted to the device itself, but just do that in for completeness. Okay. So registering and enrolling mobile devices. And this is great that I'm following Martin, because Martin, we just talked about Windows Intune. He talked about Active Directory in Azure. He talked about multi-factor authentication and so on. And we utilize the same things. So if you're already set up with Office 365 or some of this other stuff Martin was talking about, your integration with Windows Intune and Configuration Manager can be really, really simple for you. All the hard work's been done. So on the left-hand side, you got your users that you want to go have and enroll a device into their environment. Lower right-hand side is your on-premise Active Directory, which you guys all have. And Martin mentioned you have this thing in the middle, Windows Azure Active Directory. Eventually, these mobile device users have to get their account information into Windows Azure Active Directory. And that's through a process, as Martin mentioned, called DIRSync, directory synchronization. Will get those user accounts over to that Windows Azure Active Directory. And then you can use ADFS and web proxy authentication to do that single sign-on scenario so the users only have to sign on one time with their corporate credentials and being able to access their mobile device as well as their on-premise devices. And you can go ahead and utilize that. You got Windows Intune, which is a cloud-based service as well, up at the very top. And then your goal is that users can enroll their mobile devices through Windows Azure Active Directory through authentication, enroll up into Windows Intune, and then be able to see those devices in Configuration Manager Admin Console. So in your Admin Console, you want to be able to see your Windows platforms you have on-premise, as well as your Macs, your Linux, your Unix, and then those mobile devices that your end users way on the far left-hand side have been enrolling into your infrastructure. So it looks a little complicated, but it takes a little while to figure out what you're doing, but once you got that figured out, it's very, very simple integration. Okay, last couple of slides I'll show you, then we'll jump into some demo stuff. So this is the feature set we introduced a year ago with the SP1 product and the release of Windows Intune back then. Over-the-air device enrollment. Back when I started, back in SMS 2003, we first had an add-on feature pack called the Mobile Device Management Feature Pack. And in order to install an agent on a mobile device then, you had to take your phone, you had to stick it in your docking station, which was tethered to your desktop, and then we installed an agent through your desktop through the Active Sync connection to that device, and so it's tethered enrollment. Now you want to enroll your device over the air, whatever your connection is. Self-service portal, which you already talked about. User-targeted application delivery. Device settings and user settings. Being able to put some restrictions on these devices so management has some comfort level that they are being managed. Passwords are being turned on, cameras are being turned off in sensitive areas, and so on. Inventory. You're going to target software, you got to know who you have, what resources are available, so you need some sort of inventory, so you have that. If a device is lost or don't want to use it anymore, retire the device or completely wipe the device, so factory reset. So those are all the features we introduced back a year ago. With R2, we've added some new features. Required application delivery. So you can now, with R2, push applications to those mobile devices. Well, you may not necessarily want to do that because of the fact that some of these are bring your own device. So if the end user's bringing their own iPad in and using that for work, you're probably not going to push applications to them. But 2 lines down, you have company versus personal. I know it's a lot more common in Europe when I go over there that corporations are buying devices and giving them to the users. So most of the users have 2 devices, one company-owned and one their personal phone or whatever the device is. You can flag in our console a device as a company-owned device or a personally owned device. And then, you guys all know the application model of Configuration Manager 2012. You can put a requirement rule on your application to say this can only be installed on a company-owned device. So very cool, so you can push your applications that way. Maybe you have applications out there that users installed you don't want them to have. We now have application removal for mobile devices as well. New company apps portal, which I'll show you what that looks like. And then something people are really excited about in the R2 release, those are some of the new profiles we have. The ability of creating a profile to manage certificates, whether it's through a PKI, certificate authority, or whether it's through a simple certificate enrollment protocol, SCEP protocol. So pushing certificates down to your devices. Creating automatically establishing VPN connections. So pushing the profile down to provide the VPN information down to your mobile device, and then even have that VPN connection established automatically in certain conditions. Or providing a Wi-Fi network information down to the profile, down to the device, so that the end users don't have to go figure out what wireless network to connect to get access to your corporate environment and so on. So those are some of the new things we have in our infrastructure. Okay, so unified device management. Here's just a screenshot of our console that shows the integration. I'll just kick over to and show you this live. There we go. So this is my R2 environment, and I'm going to switch over to the it didn't change my screen resolution. Bummer. Okay. I'll go over to administration, and I'll scroll back up now. Go to cloud services, a new node that we have in R2. So our R2 console has a new node for cloud services. And if you expand cloud services, 2 of these nodes you would have seen from the SP1 integration, if you'd seen that, Windows Intune subscriptions, and then cloud distribution points. So cloud DPs are just distribution points you want to put in Windows Azure, as Martin was talking about earlier, for your on-premise clients. So your configuration manager clients to be able to have a distribution point up in the cloud in case they can't access an on-premise DP. So Windows Intune subscriptions is where you say tie your Windows Intune admin tenant to your configuration manager environment to manage these mobile devices. I'll show you that in a second. The third one, extensions for Windows Intune, that allows you to implement new features that we're implementing into Windows Intune into Configuration Manager. In fact, we just announced it yesterday, maybe it's Tuesday, one of the last couple of days. Earlier this week, we had a blog post that went out talking about email profiles and some iOS features that we're pushing out to Windows Intune next week. To implement those into Configuration Manager, you use this feature. When those are available, when you launch your admin console, you get a notification saying, hey, there's new features available. You go ahead and say, yes, download them, and you'll see them under extensions for Windows Intune, email profile, or iOS management, iOS 7 management. And if you want to enable those, you click enable, we'll go ahead and turn that feature on. You then close your console, restart your console, and you got the appropriate profile or feature added in. So that's what the extensions for Windows Intune is for. But let's go ahead and jump in here. Let's go to Windows Intune subscriptions. You can only have one, and I've already got one created, so I'll just show you what basically how you would do this. In essence, what you would do is, when you're creating your subscription, first thing we'd have you do is log in with your Windows Intune admin account to verify that you do own this account. And you'd have to configure it very much like Martin showed you, putting your account credentials, putting in your public domain name, verifying it with a text record or a mail exchange record. So registering that, getting your UPNs created for your users. But you go ahead and log in. We ask you, what collection of users do you want to allow to enroll their mobile devices? You may not want all your end users in your organization to enroll their mobile devices. So maybe you want to start with your admin staff first, or some pilot group. So create a collection, you dump the users in there. Then you go ahead and do some branding. What's your company name? And you can see here, I just put in Contoso. You can put a URL into some privacy documentation, so the end user's trying to enroll a device, they can click a link and see what you might be doing to their device eventually. You can pick your color scheme for the admin portal, or not the admin portal, the company portal for the end users. And it's the same like the application catalog. You pick whatever color scheme you want to. I'm not adverse to magenta. I have 2 daughters, but somebody else actually set this up and picked magenta. You put in company contact information. So when an end user is trying to enroll a mobile device and they have some problems, or later on they have problems, who do they go to contact? So they would see contact information, they'd be able to call a phone number, and no, that's not my direct line, so you can call that number all you want to. That's not my email, you can email that all you want to as well, and you won't get me. That phone number actually is a Microsoft switchboard number, so they could route the call to me. They would see a link to a website they can go to get information, and you can put some text there. So give it some help desk information. You put in your company logo, very much like what Martin was showing you with the Windows Azure. You can put in a logo so that people know that this is an authentic application they're going to, and not some phishing website that happened to pop up on their device. So you can put in a logo, and you got a white background, and we got your color scheme, the magenta background on there. And then all you do is go designate what platforms do you want to support. iOS or Android, just go ahead and say, yes, I want to support Android. iOS, for iOS, remember we're using the Apple MDM protocol. You have to have an Apple push notification service certificate. So you have to go to Apple with your Apple ID, request a certificate, download it, and then you import it. And here you can see that it says my certificate is on file. So I have done that. That whole process takes 2 minutes. So very, very simple to get this Apple push notification certificate for your environment. In fact, you can see that up on the very top of the ribbon. You see in create Apple Apple push notifications service certificate. You can do that. You just have to turn that on. For Windows, if you want to manage your Windows RT, your Windows 8.1 devices with the OMA DM, you go ahead and say, yes, I want to do that, and then you have to code sign your application. So import your code signing certificate for your environment. And then Windows Phone 8, if you've done any looking at this, you know this is I'll say it's our problem child. And I hate to say that since I'm being broadcast worldwide, but in order to manage Windows Phone 8 in a production environment, you have to go and purchase a certificate from Symantec, which is a lousy solution. It wasn't a configuration manager Windows Intune requirement. It's a Windows Phone team certificate requirement. So what we did is we created a trial service or a trial certificate for you. So you can go out to the web, you can download this trial certificate, you can import it, it has an SSP or self-service portal for the Windows Phone 8. You can sign it, and you can run a VB script that will publish it in here for you. So you can see that it does say I have the certificate on file, and oops, sorry about that. Trying not to get you guys seasick. And you can see it says it got the company portal app installed. So it'll install automatically when I register a mobile device. If you go to a production environment, you do have to go in there and purchase this Symantec certificate. So you just go designate what devices you want. So once you've designated the devices you want, now end users can start enrolling. So let me talk about enrollment for a second. Windows Phone 8, OMA DM's built in. You go to the phone, go to settings. Down at the bottom of settings is company apps. Go to company apps, sign in with your Windows Intune account that is a member of this collection. Remember that collection I showed you? You have to sign in with a user account that's a member of that collection, mobile device users. And then you give it your Windows Intune account information. And then it will go ahead and register you and install the company portal. Very, very simple. For Windows RT, OMA DM's built into it. So again, you just search for, in the search from the start screen, search for company apps. It's built in. Just go ahead and sign in again with a Windows Intune account. It says you're not enrolled. Do you want to? You say yes, and bingo, it enrolls you. For Windows 8.1, I'll show you in just a second that. iOS, the easiest way is go to iTunes, download the company portal app. When you install the company portal app, it'll tell you, hey, you're not enrolled. Do you want to add the device? You click Add Device. It says, do you want to install your certificate? You say yes. Takes a couple of minutes, bingo, the app is installed, and you're enrolled as a mobile device. For Windows 8.1, it's very, very simple. We have the OMA DM stuff's built in. So now if I switch over to my Windows 8.1 client, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, go full screen. There you go, so Windows 8.1 client. All I would do is go to Settings. Oops, lost Settings. Go to Settings, go to PC Settings, go to Network, there we go, we'll go to Network, and then we go to Workplace. And then you would sign in with your Windows Intune account, user5@contoso2013.com, and then down at the bottom you have this option that says Turn On. So because it says Turn On means I'm not enrolled. So I just click the old Turn On button, and it's going to connect up to the workplace. So if the internet's working properly, it's going to connect me up, let me finish off my signing into Windows Intune, because I just gave it an account name. I have to give it my password. And then it will go ahead and say, hey, do you want to enroll your device in here? And you say, yes, I agree, and bingo, you're enrolled. So I'll go ahead and click in my password. And if we're working correctly, this will change to a blue screen. It gives you some basic information about Windows, what might happen here. You have to say, hey, yes, I understand that management might push some settings down or applications down to my device. I say, I agree. I click Turn On. And then the Turn On button will change to Turn Off. That means I'm enrolled. That's all the harder it is to enroll a Windows 8.1 device. No installing of agents, that was all built into the operating system. All I needed was a Windows Intune account that was a member of that collection, mobile device users. And then in a matter of minutes, this guy will appear in my admin console. So if I go back over to my admin console, and if I go over to my, I got to switch my screen resolution. I apologize here. This is killing me. I can't scroll, and I can't get up there to do that anyway. So we're going to leave it. We don't want to take the time here. We only got 25 or 28 minutes, so. We're going to go into our devices, and now you'll see I actually have in this environment, I already have some mobile devices enrolled. And you can tell that very, very easily just by looking at the icons. So look at the icon in the first column, and you see there's computer icons, and there's mobile device icons. So very easy to tell what is a mobile device. So those four devices I just showed you, you can see Client 81, that's the Windows 8.1 computer I just enrolled. Down at the bottom, my User 5 Windows Phone, my iPad, and then my Surface device. So they appear just like any other computer that you would have with the full ConfigMgr client agent on them, other than the icon. So the icon, so you know it's a mobile device. Gives you the computer name, and you actually see a Linux client in there as well below Client 81. It is a client, so it says yes. It's assigned to the site. MCM is my site code. And then it says inactive just because this is an image that I had running, and they're not actively talking to this specific image. So I can go look at any one of these. If I want to say my iPad, you can just go to right-click and Properties. I'll go to Properties up here. And then those of you guys that have looked at properties of a real computer being a Windows client, you would see that looks really similar. It says client registration, heartbeat discovery. It'll tell you the OS you're running. It'll tell you the client version you're running. It tells it's an iPad, it's an agent edition, it's a mobile device. So the discovery properties look very much like a full-fledged Windows client. So very cool. It'll look just like anything else. We have a bunch of reports built in. So if I go down to here, got a whole bunch of reports. So if I want to see all mobile device clients, there's my mobile devices that I have enrolled in my environment. So it tells you the computer name, tells you the operating system, tells you the hardware, tells you what the product name is, Windows 8.1, Windows RT, iPad, Windows Phone. And then I got another one, if I can get down there. Sorry about that, I thought I had the screen resolution set correctly, but just here's a pie chart. It shows you what your different operating systems are that you have. And it shows you in a tabular format at the left and then a pie chart, so you can look at that as well. So multiple different ways of looking at your information. Okay, with that, we're going to jump back into the slides here for a second. We'll go back in a moment. Okay, just talked about enrolling mobile devices. So I'll skip these two slides for you. Android devices, I don't have an Android here, but to enroll an Android device, same thing as the iOS. You go to Google Play, you download our company portal for Windows Intune. You install it, it installs the agent, and enrolls your device. Now, one difference on iOS, you can also, if you don't want to download the company portal, if you want to use a website, you can actually enroll an iOS device through a website if you prefer doing that. But the company portal is so much easier. Okay. All right, so what's new in inventory? So I showed you the basic properties of a discovered device, but we can also get some inventory information. So by default, when you enroll a mobile device, it's going to come in that first column where it says company versus personal. It's going to come in as a personal device. And as a personal device, we get just some basic hardware inventory I'll show you in just a second. And then we only inventory applications that were installed through your mobile device platform. So installed through ConfigMgr and Windows Intune. You get those applications. You can change a device from personal to company. If you change it over to a company device on Android and iOS, then we'll also inventory any personally installed applications that were installed from iTunes directly or Google Play directly, not just through ConfigMgr and Windows Intune. So you do get some extra inventory. On Windows devices, we only do the applications that are installed from the management authority. And then again, you can use that global condition to change your device from a personal to corporate and control your application deployments with that. So let's go back into our admin console. Oops, admin console. And here you see devices. You can add another column display on here, device owner. And you'll see that by default, all the mobile devices come in as personal. And if I want to change one of those, for example, I want to change my iPad, just do a right click. I can say change, oops, got to scroll down. Change ownership. And it lets me designate that this is a company iPad as opposed to a personal iPad. And now, if I do another next hardware inventory event will give me all the applications that are installed on that device, no matter how they got installed. So all the stuff that you installed directly, all the games and so on that you have. And when you go out there and install software, now you can go in there and go to the software library. You can go to your application management. You can go to global conditions. And in your global conditions, you'll now see a couple of conditions when they retrieve here for device ownership. So here's ownership. And you see it says mobile. So now I can say, as a requirement rule on an application for deployment, only install ownership has to equal corporate, company versus personal. And then if it's a personally owned device registered as that, then the application will fail to install because it doesn't meet the requirements. Just like memory, just like disk space, just like processor, whatever else you happen to have. So very, very cool. We'll give you some great capabilities there. Okay, go back to our slides for a moment. Application delivery. So this is a screenshot of the company portal. I know it's white on a white screen background, so it doesn't show up very well, but this is where you'd have the common look and feel for all these different platforms. iOS, Windows Phone 8, Windows RT, Windows 8.1. You'd have that same common look and feel that's appropriate for the platform, where it'll show you your company logo at the top. So you see there's a Contoso Center there with your bitmap. It shows you your featured apps, your browse by category, applications that are available to you. You pick an app, you click install if you want to, and bingo, it starts installing your app. Now, if it's what we call a deep linked app, something that you install from the store, will redirect you directly to the iTunes store or Google Play store or Windows Phone store. You log into that store and you install the app from there, but it will take you directly to that application. You see on the far right-hand side of your slide, over here, it says My Devices, and it shows you 5 devices there. You can see all of the mobile devices that you have enrolled in one portal. So it'll show you your iPad, it'll show me my iPad, my Windows Phone 8, my Windows RT, and my Windows 8.1 device. So I'll have a tile there for each one of those. So let's say I wind up losing my phone again at the airport. I can go to my iPad, log into the company portal on my iPad, I can click on the tile from my Windows Phone, and I can say, reset the device. So I can initiate a wipe of my phone from my iPad. So any of the mobile devices, you'll see all the other ones you have enrolled and managed for you, and you can manage them directly from any one of those portals. And then what you don't see on this screenshot, because it's cut off, but on the beyond your list of devices would be that company contact information. Wally Mead, here's the phone number, here's the email, here's the website to go to. That's on that same screen as well. So that's for your mobile platforms. But what we have now, we just released not too long ago, is the company portal for your configuration manager clients. So now for your on-premise config manager clients, we have a company portal for those as well. So if I go to this guy here, and close that, let me go to full screen. So this is the on-premise client company portal. So here you see my company logo, Contoso. The magenta Contoso word there is when you're filling out that branding stuff, there's a checkbox to display the company name next to the logo. In the event your logo doesn't have your company name with it. In my case, since it does, I would not really have that there, but Jim selected it. You can see all your apps by category, by featured apps, a couple of different applications here. Here's the company contact information. So click email, click corporate website. Now the on-premise version talks to Configuration Manager. The device portal version, the mobile device version, talks to Windows Intune. So that shows you all your mobile devices registered. Your on-premise version doesn't talk to Windows Intune, so it doesn't know what mobile devices I have. So I don't have those tiles there for my iPad, my Windows 8.1, my Windows RT, and my phone. But on your mobile device, you would have those. But we now have that for Windows 8 and above. So you can have that, again, that common look and feel for your end user interface for all your devices now, Windows 8 and above, and then your mobile platforms. So you can concentrate on that now if you wish. But that was released not too long ago. You can download that from the Microsoft Download Center. Okay, application delivery. You guys all know app delivery. It's the same type of stuff that you have that you've been doing for a while. So you create an application, or your target collection you want to go to, create the app for Windows, Windows Phone. And Windows would be Windows 8.1, Windows RT, Windows Phone 8, iOS, Android. So you create your application, put in the appropriate deployment types, put in the appropriate requirement rules, then you deploy the application to the target collection, and the app would appear in the company apps portal for the end user. Most of your targeting of applications is going to be targeted to users as available apps, because most of the time these are bring your own, so you don't want to push applications down to them. But again, with that requirement rule, you can do corporate deployed applications. So if I were to go over to my site again and go back to my applications, and let's go create an application. And I'll show you the different application types we have. And you guys have seen most of these. If you're SP1 or later, you've seen all of these, with the exception of maybe web applications. Web application, something new we added in R2 to push a URL to a company application you have that's basically a website. But all the rest was there as of R2. So for Windows 8.1 clients, you would take these two, Windows App Package and Windows App Package in the Windows Store. For Windows Phone 8, it would be one of these, Windows Phone App Package or in the Windows Phone Store, and then the two for iOS and Android. Locally installed or sideloaded, as we call it, or from iTunes or Google Play. And you just pick the appropriate type of application you have. So if I were to take a app package for iOS, I think I have some source files on here. We'll find out in a second if I remember to copy those over. Yeah, iOS. And pick my application, import it from your file information. Then, once you created your application, you go ahead and modify it just like you normally would for any other application you have. But if I go and take iOS test app, go to its properties, and then remember I turned my iPad into a company-owned device. So now if I go to deployment types, iOS, edit, and then requirement rules, there aren't any by default. So I go in there and put in appropriate requirement rules for the platform, and I'll say device, and must be the cold temperatures outside causing the slowness in the VMs populating. So maybe that was your problem, Martin. Maybe it wasn't really internet connection. It was temperature. Yeah. Oh, there we go, finally, okay. And there you see ownership. So I can show you ownership, and I can say ownership is equal to, believe me, we'll get there eventually. Wow, this is like I'm over in Europe and running off of European power. I can always use that joke, it works well when I'm in Europe, but I've never had the problem in the United States before. So yeah, it must be Houston. Okay, I'm voting for us moving next year. Okay, maybe we're not gonna wait here for this, but you should be able to click on ownership, and there we go. And then I would change this to company. And I've got a requirement rule. I can put whatever other requirement rules I want to. So now when I target this application to my users, it will only deploy if the device has been changed from a personally owned to a company-owned device. Your ConfigMan clients are always company-owned. You can't change those. Mobile devices, they will default to personal, but you can change them over to a corporate-owned if you want to. And then the rest of the deployment process is exactly as you guys know. You deploy to a collection and so on. So nothing really unique there, and the rest of it, just the type of application you want. Okay, mobile device settings. So we've got a lot of settings that are available in ConfigMan as of R2, and this is not the complete list of them. These are just some of the highlights of things we've added in there. The top 3, again, are the ones that people are really excited about, being the VPN, the Wi-Fi, and the certificate profiles that are available. I guess I'll get there in a minute. So if you look at the columns, you'll see Windows 8.1 is pretty full-featured. iOS is pretty full-featured. Android is coming along. Again, this is our first iteration of writing an Android agent, and it had nothing built into the OS. So we're doing okay in Android, and we'll skip Windows Phone 8 for now, unfortunately. There's an enterprise feature pack that we've announced for Windows Phone 8 that's coming out in the first half of this year. When that comes out, and then we modify our service and Configuration Manager to take advantage, we have a whole lot more checkboxes there. But the initial release of Windows Phone 8 just had very, very little things you could do in the operating system with OMADM. So, and you guys all know Windows Phone 7 had 0 management capabilities in it at all. So we can't manage Windows Phone 7. You have to do that through EAS, Exchange Active Sync. So Windows Phone 8, we can do some stuff. You can deploy apps. You can do some settings like password, but not a whole lot yet. So, so some of these, I'll show you how you get to these, but there's full documentation in TechNet on what these settings are and how you configure these settings and what platforms they're applicable for. So, all right, so I'll show you a couple of those in a demo coming up. So a couple things real quickly before we go to the next demo. This is a screenshot. Again, no, you can't see it. I'll show it live to you. There's a new node underneath compliance settings, and that's for the company resource access. And that's where you find the certificate profiles. That's where you find the Wi-Fi profiles and the VPN profiles. If you choose to enable the email profile that we announced earlier this week, when it comes out next week, it'll appear here under Company Resource Access as well. You'll see email profile here once that gets enabled through those extensions for Windows Intune. So you go pick the appropriate type of profile you want to, configure it, which I'll show you momentarily, and then you deploy it. We show you the supported platforms, and it's all the mobile device stuff. So it's all mobile device platforms for the most part that we're targeting these new features at right now. So VPNs, down the lower left-hand side, it gives you a listing of all the vendors there, and I'll show you this live as well. So it's not just Microsoft VPN stuff, it's all the major third parties that are doing VPNs. We have some standard protocols in the middle as well. And then there's automatic VPN connection. So you can designate that whenever I have traffic, network traffic, that hits a specific DNS suffix, automatically establish this VPN connection for me. Or for Windows modern apps, so modern Windows apps, on the application, you can say, when this application needs network activity, automatically have it trigger the VPN connection. So very, very cool. So the end user didn't have to go establish their own VPN. We'll do it for them automatically. Wi-Fi and certificate profiles. So Wi-Fi, just again, providing the SSID and the network name and authentication stuff down to the end user so they don't have to go searching and browsing and trying to figure out how to connect up to the wireless network. Certificate profiles, you can deploy any type of certificates you want to basically any of the stores that you want to in your certificate store. There's 2 different ways here. There's standard PKI, certificate authorities, and there's the simple certificate enrollment protocol, SCEP. So now, unfortunately, there's 2 different SCEPs you have to worry about. SCEP, the certificate protocol, simple certificate enrollment protocol, and SCEP, System Center Endpoint Protection, as the anti-malware, antivirus solution. So you got a couple of those you have to deal with. And this SCEP we're talking about here is not Microsoft. It's, it's industry standard stuff, so it's just kind of a conflict of a name. So you go configure those as appropriate for you. So then we also, last slide, then I'll go to more demo. Work folders. This is a new feature of Windows Server 2012 R2. It allows you basically to take folders and synchronize them with your devices. And right now your devices are Windows 8.1 and above, but we're working on backporting this platform technology to prior type of operating systems. The way I think about it, I think about SkyDrive, which is up in the cloud, bringing SkyDrive down locally. So an on-premise kind of like version of SkyDrive, where SkyDrive is really for Office documents. This can be for any type of documents that you want. And then your support, again, there's new settings to help provision these folders. It's through the standard configuration items to integrate and configure these work folders. So before we get to the protection stuff, let's go and do a demo on settings. All right, so we're going to go to our assets and compliance workspace. And then we're going to scroll back up. Compliance settings, which you guys are familiar with. You guys are all familiar with configuration items. So if I go here and I create a new configuration item, and SCU, I just say the type is a mobile device. And then I click next when I find my mouse. There it is. And then here's all the different categories or groups that we have of settings. Well, not all of them, because there's a scroll bar there, and you obviously can't see them all, but all the different type of settings that we have there. If you're not sure what grouping the category, the device, the setting is you want, you can click the checkbox down at the bottom saying, I don't really know. Click next, then click add, and we'll give you a flat listing of everything. It'll just give you a listing of all the different settings that are available for you. Like if you want to turn off the camera is up here. So you can turn off the camera, and it tells you what platforms it's supported on. I did a demo one time where I went in, video chat client. And you see it's only applicable for iOS. So that's basically FaceTime. So I created a setting here to turn off FaceTime, put it in a baseline, deployed it to my mobile device user, and when the user got the profile or the setting baseline down to the policy down on the iPad, FaceTime icon was removed from the device. And then when I removed the management for it, the FaceTime icon came back. So you can go ahead and control some of those different settings, but very much like you would do for your Windows platforms. Now the cool thing is, notice here it shows you supported platforms. If I go ahead and, let's go ahead and we'll just take that one. We'll configure it, and I'll say FaceTime is false, so turn it off. And remediate. Remediate means make it compliant if it's not compliant. So if it's FaceTime's turned on, which it is by default, turn it off. And I go ahead and then done with that, click next. What platforms do I want to support? This is everything. This is all the mobile platforms we have from all our different types of support. Remember that said it was only iOS, but I'm saying I want it to be for all my platforms. On the next screen, we actually go through and tell you, hey, buddy, you told me you wanted to have this for everybody, but this guy ain't going to work for everybody. So we'll show you the platforms that it's not going to get it applied to. So what this gives you is the ability of creating. You don't have to create different settings per platform. I don't have to create iOS settings versus my Android settings versus my Windows Phone settings. I can create all my settings in one group of mobile device settings, apply it to all my operating systems, and the mobile device will figure out what's appropriate for it. So we won't go applying things that aren't appropriate for that device there for you. Okay, I'll go ahead and kill that. And just real quickly, if I go down here and go to Company Resource Access, and here's my certificate profiles, here's my VPN profiles, and here's Wi-Fi profiles. I'll just show you VPNs that most people like most. So I'll just go create one real quick. And System Center Universe. And if I go to next, then it shows you all the different platforms we support. So if you couldn't read it on the slide, there's a list of platforms. And I've not found anybody yet that said, hey, my VPN guy, I can't use one of those. So everybody's been able to utilize what we have there. So I'll just show you one real quickly that I have, just for the sake of time. Contoso VPN is what we're doing. So we go to VPN, go to Properties, and then I'll just show you here the on-demand stuff. I got 6 minutes left. So connection, here's where I want to connect to, Contoso VPN server, there's the address. Send all network traffic through the VPN connection. So I want to have that. And then you can put in your authentication method, what proxy settings are if you have any. Automatic VPN. So generate or enable VPN on demand. So this says whenever there's network traffic going to that DNS suffix, automatically establish this VPN connection for me. So it'll do that for you automatically, just for traffic going to that address. And this is only supported on Windows 8.1 and iOS devices currently. And again, we'll extend as we get further capabilities in the future. Now for applications, I mentioned applications can also do VPN on demand. So if I go back to my app library, and do I have a Windows 8.1 app in here already? I don't think so. No, so let's create a Windows 8.1 app real quickly, and I'll show you the application capabilities. oops, Windows app package, primary one, lab files, Windows 8.1 app. And then here when you're creating currently it's for Windows modern apps. And then you have the checkbox, use automatic VPN connection if configured. So you can go ahead and configure that I want, when the application needs network activity, go ahead and have it establish this VPN connection, provided the VPN connection has the enable on demand feature to it. So let me push down the profile to the device, and then when the application or the end user is doing something else that needs VPN, let it go ahead and create the VPN automatically. So very, very cool capabilities. So trying to make things a little bit easier for you. So we'll cancel that. We'll go back over to our slides for the last few slides we got, and we'll finish this up. Now, protecting your data. So it's all well and good to be able to provide support for your clients, to give them applications, get them access to corporate data, but what happens when they lose the device or they no longer want to manage the device? So what do you do with that? So here's an example. We've got a personal device. So it's got music on it, it's got email on it, it's got games on it, whatever it is. You enroll that device for management. So once you enroll that device for management, you get corporate applications, corporate data on that device as well. So now your device has both personal data and corporate data on the same device. Okay, we're all good. You're managing that. You're setting those appropriate settings for passwords and cameras and FaceTimes and whatever else it is. Now the device is lost or stolen. So got jacked, left it at the TSA or whatever. So what do you do in that case? In that case, what we do is we issue a full wipe command to the device. So basically reset that device to factory defaults, so factory settings. So we're going to issue a full factory reset depending upon the device. And so it's completely wiped out. Nothing's left on it, so no company data is compromised. What happens when I want to retire the device? The retiring scenario is, I've got my iPad, it's enrolled for management today, I don't want to manage it anymore, but I don't want to wipe it. I'm giving it off to one of my kids, because again, I'm going to use the Surface instead. So I want to leave personal data on the device, but I don't want to manage it through Windows Intune Configuration Manager. So you go through what's called a selective wipe process. So we do a retirement process, removes just the corporate data from that device, leaves all your personal data on that device. We just don't know about it anymore. So it's not being managed by us anymore, and all your corporate data is off that device. So selective wipe will remove, basically it tries to remove what we put on it through the management technology. Certificate profiles, applications, data, profiles, settings, and so on. Whatever we put there, we try and get rid of it. Now, sometimes we don't remove the stuff. We might remove a certificate that allows the app to work. Or we might disable something so you can't access. We might put some encryption on the folder so the end user can't access the data anymore. So it just depends upon the platform and what we're doing on there, but we are locking it down so people can't access that sensitive data anymore. So full wipe depends on your platform, but it does a factory reset. So it wipes off everything. The selective wipe, again, tries to remove what we put on that device through the management technology. And here's a list of the stuff we try and do: Android, iOS, and the Windows platforms. Okay, so let me show you how you get there, and then we'll finish this guy up. So how you get there, a couple different ways. So if I have, now let me do it this way. First I'll go to, so if I have a device with a company portal, and again, this is the on-premise company portal, so I don't see the tiles for my mobile devices. But if this was a mobile device company portal, I would have my tiles right here between my apps and my contact IT. I'd have those tiles in here for my 4 devices: my Windows Phone 8, my iPad, my Windows 8.1, and my Windows RT devices. I have those 4 tiles there. And if I lost my phone, I would go to one of the other portals that I have that I still had access to. I would click on the tile for my Windows Phone 8, and I would click either the retire or wipe. Retire means unenroll from management. Wipe means get rid of it. Now, if I still have the device, I can always go to the company portal locally, and I can just unenroll it. So I go to company settings here and clear the enroll for management, and that will remove it. Here I can just say remove device. So removing a device, retiring a device, that'll get rid of it. So if I have access to the portal, I can do it locally. I can do it from one of the other portals I have. So that's end user initiated action. So if the end user is available and they have the portal, they can go and do that on their own. If not, then from the admin console, so you can go to your list of devices. So you can go to your list of devices here, and oops, Wally lost his phone. So I go find Wally's phone, and then I can either, from the ribbon or from the device, I can right-click, and I can, down at the bottom, there's a retire or wipe. Oops, sorry about that. It's supposed to be an arrow. There's a retire or wipe. So I go ahead and do a retire or wipe. Depending upon the platform, will show you what your options are. The top one, wipe company content and retire the mobile device from Config Manager, selective wipe. The bottom one, wipe the mobile device and retire it from Configuration Manager. That's a full wipe, factory reset. So depending upon the platform, you'll have those appropriate options. So pick whatever one's appropriate for you, and then we'll go ahead and kick it out. Now, the last thing I'll say, because I'm out of time, is I was in Europe, and one of the people came up there and said, showed me a screenshot of their customer. Their customer had 1,600 iPhones that they were managing through Config Manager Windows Intune. The name in here was iPhone for all 1,600 of them. So that doesn't help you out a whole lot for management. He said, one of my end users lost their device. How do we wipe it? How do we know which one to wipe? And I said, well, start wiping out, wipe all 1,600. Go ahead. No, probably don't want to do that. So go to users and go to the user. And in this case, I'll say user 5. Right-click and say edit primary devices, and we'll show you the devices for that end user. Or you can just click the user, then down in the preview pane, clear over here to the right, there's a primary device, and we'll show you the devices for that user. And then, okay, there was an iPhone listed for that user. So then you just go ahead and pick the device, and then you go and do the retire wipe there. So you can do it that way. So good thing to point out when your end users are going to enroll, first ask them all to set a unique name, because you can't change it after the fact. So best thing to do. Anyway, that is all the time I have. In fact, I'm over time. So great capabilities. It's a great solution. We're making progress. We're getting better. Great way of integrating between those two technologies for managing all your platforms through a single solution, being the Configuration Manager and Windows Intune. With that, I'll be around the rest of the day if you guys got any questions. If you're going to go to one of the user groups in the next 5 days, great to see you around there. And other than that, have a great rest of your event today. Thanks, guys.
All right, great job. Thank you very much, Wally.